But you know, it's funny. I've been making parody videos for a long time. In fact, the
Right.
first video I ever made that was a successful video for my channel, like a really successful video, like went kind of viral, was a parody of the old Gillette commercial. I don't know if you remember this Gillette commercial where they were essentially like, men are toxic. You can do better, men. And everybody's like, you know, we're your primary demographic. Like, you sell your product almost exclusively to us. Like, why would you want to denigrate men? So I made an ad that was very similar to the original ad, but I changed the voiceover so that instead of saying very subtly, men, you are, you know, degenerates and all that kind of thing, I made it much more obvious, and people just thought that was really funny, and that kind of kicked off my channel. Then I had the Brains Behind AOC video, that really blew up my channel. But I've always done these parody ads, and I have always thought they were pretty good. When I made this one, though, it was a little bit different, right? Because I used AI to generate Kamala Harris's voice. And when I did that, I think it gave a whole new sort of dynamic to the parody. And so Elon Musk found it, he shared it, and I think it's up to like 130 something million views. I mean, it went ultra viral. It went like nuclear, you know? And so, I mean, just like everybody in the world saw this video. And, you know, Elon Musk posts a lot of stuff. A lot of the stuff that he posts gets a lot of views. But this seems to have had a cultural impact. And I think for several reasons, not the least of which, people recognize that what I'm saying in the video is true. You know, Kamala Harris is a DEI hire. Kamala Harris is, you know, like a deep state puppet. You know, she does try to hide her incompetency. So a lot of the stuff I say in the video, I think it rings true to people. That's why it's so popular, and that's why I think the left is so triggered by it. Yeah, that is completely mental, right? Because it's unconstitutional. He's just blatantly stated openly that he wants to create a fascistic amendment to the California Constitution or some kind of a bill or something like this, which makes creating parody videos illegal. Look, I wrote on the video, both on the YouTube channel and on the Twitter account, I wrote parody in all caps so that people would know this is parody, just in case somebody had an IQ lower than 30 and they were watching it. I thought I would like people to know. Now, Elon Musk, when he shared the video the first time, he didn't write parody on it. And that drove a lot of people nuts, because I think the way people talk about it in the news media is that Kamala Harris's voice, you know, the way I created the AI, her voice is close enough to her actual voice that they think people will actually be fooled. And maybe it's because some of them are, you know, lower than 30 IQ, and they were fooled a little bit.
Maybe.
But if you listen to what is being said in the video, you know, it's a campaign ad for Kamala Harris in which she's acknowledging she's a moron. I mean, literally, the only thing I could have done to make it more obvious is have the video start with, "Hello, my name's Kamala Harris, and I'm a total a-hole." And if I'd done that, then maybe they wouldn't claim that we were trying to trick people. But the reality is, they're just looking for an excuse to get upset. They know that this is parody. They know that I wasn't trying to mislead anyone. They know the video doesn't mislead anyone. And they know that Elon Musk was not trying to mislead anyone. So any accusation of that nature is just virtue signaling and BS. Yeah, I think it needs to be called cucks for Kamala. I think that's much better, because it's alliterative. You see, it's alliterative. It's got this k-k sound. And, you know, people like that. It's a little catchier. But yeah, no. These guys, you know what's funny is, like, they're talking about how like my video misled people because it wasn't posted as parody when Elon Musk posted, which is ridiculous. But then they put out this rumor, the left put out this ridiculous rumor that JD Vance had some sort of weird adolescent sex with a couch or something like that. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah.
But that was what triggered the whole JD Vance's weird thing that's going on right now.
Right.
And they're still stuck on this JD Vance's weird thing. JD Vance is probably the most normal guy I have ever seen in politics ever.
Right.
I mean, he's like an average American dude. They're like, oh, this guy's so weird. He's so weird. I'm like, I don't think this is going to stick. But it's like really weird how the left goes, let's just like obsess over this accusation or obsess over this messaging that we want to do. It's so artificial. It's so fake. And I think that's the difference between the left and the right. When we create a parody or something like that, I think that it highlights a truth, or it shines a light on some truth. right? That's what I was trying to do with this video. Despite the fact that it's a joke, I'm trying to shine a light on the truth.
Yeah.
When they do some kind of a joke or something like that, it's not really a joke. It's a disingenuous way of trying to actually trick people. They're really trying to lie to people, and they're trying to cloud the issue. And I think that's a really strong difference between the left and the right. And I don't think it's working. I do think people are waking up. If you ask me, I don't really think Kamala has a chance in this election. I know a lot of people are looking at the polls and saying, oh, she's getting closer and closer to Trump. I don't know, it's getting kind of dangerous. Of course, everybody has to get out there and vote. But my gosh, is she like the least likable candidate in the history of American politics? No, listen, this is, to me, this was the big highlight story about her rally, was that her rally coincided with a Trump rally, right? And in the Trump rally, you saw a sold out stadium, right? I think probably a bigger stadium than what Kamala had, but a sold out stadium, people cheering for Trump, people went there to see Trump, of course. And then you had a kind of a similar image with the Kamala rally, right? You had a sold out stadium, I think a little bit smaller, but still a sold out stadium. And you had people cheering and yelling and screaming, and you thought, okay, these kind of look equivalent. Like, we've got somebody who can stand up against Trump. If you weren't savvy, you might be fooled into thinking that, right? And that was the plan. It was to trick people. Just like I said, it's about them being disingenuous. And this Megan Thee Stallion chick, she's obviously like a big star. They're in Atlanta. She's probably got a ton of fans there. So all you got to do is go, hey, Atlanta, free concert.
Right.
And all these people come fill these seats. I think Kamala barely filled that high school gymnasium when she first announced, or when she first, accepted her, the nomination, stepped into the role of the new nominee, whatever. And now she's filling up this big stadium, but it's all an illusion. It's all a lie. And, it kind of goes to what you're saying about masculinity. To me, the reason I advocate masculinity isn't because I'm like, oh, men gotta be tough. I mean, I do kind of think that, but it's because it's human nature, right? For thousands and thousands of years, we went out and we hunted the deer. We went out and we fought the other tribe, We were out there developing the skills over time, over generations and generations, to be violent. We need to be violent in a constructive way to defend our families, to defend our tribe, whatever it might be. And then what do? They put somebody in charge of the Secret Service who's an obvious diversity hire, who clearly knows nothing about, defending anyone or any kind of controlled violence. What the Secret Service is an agency that has to deal with controlled violence. That's what the whole thing exists for. Right. And they got this woman there who doesn't know what she's doing. So to me, yeah, masculinity is absolutely critical. And it's all about the truth, human nature, reality. I think that's what conservatives stand for. And I think that the left, I think they stand for exactly the opposite. No, but it does in the most selfish way imaginable, right? I mean, look, if you want to give a woman some kind of a mental illness, like a surefire way to create some kind of like psychological damage for the rest of her life, get her an abortion, okay? Yeah, I mean, you're going to give her a mental illness instantaneously. Look, these people, I've said this for a long time, like, oftentimes the reason that women get abortions is because their boyfriend pressures them to do it, right? That's a common thing. We've known that for decades. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we can't have laws that require women under 18 to have to tell their parents if they're going to get an abortion. But it's like, she is telling some people, whether it's her parents or not. And those people are, do have an influence on her. So I think her parents are probably the best influence that she could possibly have in that kind of tragic scenario, where she was, considering getting an abortion. Right. But these people on the left, they don't really care about reality. They only care about the position that they have, the power that they have, staying in power. They know there's a lot of women out there they can scare. See, this is the problem with our current situation, is that the left has figured out that about 50% of the American populace is very gullible. And all they have to do is tell the right stories to them, and they either create this great sympathy for some victim group or another, and they pretend that we hate that group, and if we're in charge, they're going to go to internment camps or something like that. Or they create this fear for themselves. Oh, if the conservatives get into power, all your rights will be stripped away. And it's obviously absurd, but so many people believe it. The only hope I really have is that the internet has made the truth readily available. If you want to hear it, you can get to the truth now from shows like your show, and I hope shows like my show.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of single issue voters out there. And,
I know.
It's really the sort of like the last issue they have, because there is, I think that I understand why people want women to be able to have access to abortions. I understand that.
Me too.
I don't agree with it, but I understand the thinking. If you genuinely do not think that the fetus is a child, I understand thinking that taking that right away doesn't make any sense to you, right? But of course, we're not really having a conversation. Is it a child or not? I think that's the critical conversation. But if you're convinced, if you're absolutely sure, then I think that those people, they do make sense. If you accept that truth, which I don't think is true, but if you accept that as the truth, what they're saying does make sense. So I can sympathize with them. I don't agree with them, but I sympathize with them. They become so passionate about this one issue. And the thing is, like, conservatives are against abortion for the most part. Leftists are for abortion for the most part. So the left still has, like the political left, still has this one issue that I think a majority of voters agree with them on. They don't agree with them on almost anything else. I mean, the majority of voters, American voters, I think if you would ask them issue by issue, they would agree with conservatives on just about anything.
I agree.
Just about everything, because the left has gone so crazy radical, so crazy far. But they do have this one issue of abortion, and so they just push that and push that and push that. That's all they do. I mean, they have climate change. They're not even talking about climate change though anymore, because most people don't even care about climate change anymore. Right. This is the only thing they've got. It's the only thing they've got. What? Yeah, look, there are people who they just want to be single their whole life. They don't want to have kids. They want to live that lifestyle. They want to be adventurous. I understand that. There's going to be some people like that. That's okay. The problem is when you make this a cultural phenomenon where you say that this is the ideal. This is what you should strive to be. You should strive to be alone and lonely and miserable for the rest of your life. J.D. Vance made a great point. He said, people who have children have a stake in the future of the country. And that's absolutely true. I mean, just think about it logically. If you're the kind of person who's like, I'm just going to live my life to the fullest, then kick the bucket and not leave any kind of legacy or anything like that. Like, what the hell do you care about the future of the country? You know what I mean? Like, logically, there's going to be a lot of people who don't care. This is sort of an atheistic, nihilistic view, but there are people with that view. So J.D. Vance has a strong point there. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not one to talk. I don't have kids. My brother has kids. My sister has kids. They're beautiful. I love my nieces and nephews. I do expect eventually, at some point in my life, to have children. I made a joke to somebody once, though, where I said, somebody with some children, and I was like, how's the kid doing? And they're like, oh, he's doing great. It's tough to fly and travel and all that stuff. I go, you know how I avoided that? Not having children. And I expected them to kind of laugh a little bit, whatever. But they looked ashamed. They almost looked ashamed. These are Europeans. And I realized in that moment that in Western civilization, we've made it shameful to have children, like culturally shameful. It's not cool to be a parent anymore. And I think that's so disturbing. That's so sad that, that is like the ideal that we have now. The ideal life is to just be a single woman and live the rest of your life alone and lonely. It's really quite a sad state we have in the West. Well, okay, I'll give you this example. When I posted my viral video that Elon Musk reposted and got, 130 million views or whatever, you'd think that a few of those people would go, oh, Mr. Reagan posted this, let me go to his YouTube channel and I would get some new subscribers, stuff like that. And yeah, I've gotten a few new subscribers and I've got a few views, but the original video I posted to YouTube has only got 300,000 views. Some random guy who has 1,000 followers on YouTube somewhere re-uploaded my video the same day that I uploaded it. He grabbed it from Elon Musk, I think, and uploaded it.
Yeah.
He got 1 million views.
Oh, you're totally you've been suppressed on YouTube.
I'm so shadow banned that some random guy who doesn't even have followers got 1 million views on my video that I only got 300,000 views on. It's ridiculous. So that's the landscape that we're looking at. We are utterly suppressed on social media. It's terrible. But let me give you a bombshell prediction. This is some speculation, but this is what I think the October surprise will be. Great. I mentioned this on Gorka's show. I mentioned it on Newsmax. I'll mention it on your show. Great. I haven't even mentioned it on my show, but I'm going to throw it at you. So I think what's going to happen is Kamala's popularity will wane. I think this is a sort of flash in the pan moment. They've been able to sort of gin up this false enthusiasm for Kamala with the, Megan B. Stallion concert and all this kind of nonsense. And so some people are tricked into thinking, okay, Kamala's doing better than we thought, you know, and I think fake enthusiasm can actually generate real enthusiasm.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to last. I think that it'll fade away pretty soon. And then we'll get it maybe 2 weeks out from the election, maybe 3 weeks out, something like that. And they've got to then capture the news cycle, right? Because who captures the news cycle better than anyone? Donald Trump. Just look what he did at the Black Journalists Convention, whatever that thing was. I mean, he was just like, he dominates the news whenever he wants. He just snaps his fingers, he dominates the news. So what do? Toward the end, right before the election, they have Joe Biden step down as president, and who becomes the first female president of the United States? Kamala Harris.
Right.
Big news, dominates the news cycle, October surprise, generates all kinds of enthusiasm again. I think that's what's going to happen. That's my prediction. Yeah, no, James Lindsay, there's a video that he did an interview with Charlie Kirk. You can see it on my Twitter page if you go there.
Great.
James Lindsay made a great point recently. He said, there's this like viral video going around showing how many times Kamala Harris has said, let's see what can be unburdened by what has been. Let's see what can be unburdened by she loves this phrase. And I always thought she liked it because it was sort of poetic and makes her sound profound, in this sort of like pseudo-intellectual way, even though nobody really understands what the hell she means. James Lindsay makes a great point. He's like, this is a Marxist sort of chant, like incantation. Basically, like, let's just demolish the past and raise up a new society, right? This is how the Marxists tend to work when they develop Marxism in any country. They try to destroy a country, and then they say, when people get, a low enough quality of life, they rebel, and they bring in what? They bring in communism, right? So this is her idea. But I think it's worse than that, because I think what Kamala Harris is saying is she's saying, let's get rid of everything that came before. And what came before? Traditional conservative European Christian values. Yeah. That's what our country is based in. That's what developed everything that we have in Western civilization was developed from European Christian values. So when you say, see what can be unburdened by what has been, a lot of what has been very, very good, right? You don't want to be unburdened by what has been all the time. But I do think that's what she means. I think this is sort of an anti-Christian, anti-European saying. That's what I think she's saying. I'm like canary in the coal mine. You see what's happening on my channel. It's not just me. There are tons of conservative channels that are being suppressed. I'm not the only one. So
right now,
that's the really sad thing. But go to Mr. Reagan on YouTube. Subscribe to that channel. Like I said, I'm totally shadow banned. So the only way you're going to see my stuff if you're subscribed and you hit that notification bell. And then on Twitter, I'm Mr. Reagan USA. So you can see what nonsense and silly things that I say on X. Because that's such a smart point that you're making. And I've said this for a long time. Like, the left isn't used to being made fun of, right? If you look at all the late night shows for the last 20, 30 years, they always make fun of the right. They're not used to getting punched by comedy on the left. They're not used to it. And I think that's one reason they hated this video so much. It was such an effective video at making people laugh at Kamala Harris, at the left.
Right.
And they just don't even know how to deal with that.